Three, two, one, go!
In this tutorial, I'm going to tell you how to turn this into this. This is a real VHS tape, not a filter. But how is it done, you ask? Well, it's just 2 words. Chinese sweatshops. Kidding! It's a DVD player in VCR. Plus, all this other stuff. Compared to a filter, this does take more time, money, and effort. But the result is nostalgia as pure as my virginity. Here's what happens. You turn your digital video into a DVD. That DVD enters a DVD player, which is connected to a VCR with a VHS tape. You record that video from the DVD onto the tape, then transfer it back into the computer with a capture card. The first step is to connect your VCR and DVD player.
Whilst there are hundreds of memes involving VeggieTales, perhaps the biggest 2 are known as "In the future, all entertainment will be randomly generated," otherwise known as the Weed Eater meme, and "Allow us to introduce ourselves." Let's begin with the "All entertainment will be randomly generated" meme, which is from a 2003 episode of VeggieTales named The Wonderful World of Autotainment. In it, the 2 main characters find themselves in the future. However, the future seems remarkably similar to what we have now, as we discover that all entertainment is randomly generated.
In the future, entertainment will be randomly generated.
Randomly generated?
Randomly generated.
The reason why this appears to adhere to current meme culture so well becomes clear once a robot makes a "Why did the chicken cross the road" joke.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
I don't know. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Weed eater.
Now that's funny.
Which absolutely reflects a lot of the attitudes towards abstract humor the internet sees today. So much of the current memescape is beset by ironic, surreal, and weird humor, and one could imagine a scenario in which the phrase "weed eater" is a punchline and going viral as a meme. In fact, even the YouTube comments in which the original clip is posted, you can see people commenting, "Is it bad that I laughed unironically at the robot's jokes?" Furthermore, many people comment "Weed Eater" on videos of strange memes, meaning that because of VeggieTales, Weed Eater has actually become the punchline to abstract jokes. All you need to do is look at the current memescape to understand why people are finding this style of humor unironically funny. Many of the memes around today seem absolutely nonsensical unless you have prior knowledge of the themes and previous bits of pop culture they reference.
In the future, entertainment will be randomly generated.
Randomly generated?
Randomly generated. What better way to achieve the unexpected? I've seen the future, Bob, and the future is autotainment. Hi, Rusty. Hi, Ventrilomatic. Hi, Larry. Hi, Bob.
Greetings.
Hey, those are robots.
Affirmative.
Not only that, but these guys represent the hosts of the future. Unlike us, their humor can be truly randomly generated. Right, guys?
Why did the chicken cross the road?
I don't know. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Weed eater.
Now that's funny.
That doesn't make any
Ladies and gentlemen, meet Joe Camel. the mascot for Camel cigarettes. For those of you that don't know, he is by far one of the most controversial mascots in marketing history for one reason. He tricked kids into smoking cigarettes. There was loads of proof this was happening, from Camel cigarettes enticing children with toys, to creating a group of cartoon friends in the same fashion as Mickey Mouse, to internal documents from the company revealing top executive plans to market to kids. As a result, the producer of Camel cigarettes, R.J. Reynolds, was under fire for years by the US government, all while still promoting cigarettes to kids through their cartoon. There's a lot to unpack with the history of Joe Camel, so what better place to start than his origin in 1913. In 1913, Camel cigarettes were introduced to the world, and of course, they used camels as a part of their first marketing strategy. However, their mascot back then was a lot more tame than Joe Camel. The first Camel mascot they used was pretty bland and went by the name Old Joe. Despite the unexciting appeal, Old Joe sprung Camel cigarettes into popularity and quickly made them one of the most popular cigarette brands in the US. However, by the 1950s, this success wouldn't last long, as other cigarette brands like Marlboro were quickly eating at Camel's market share. How are they doing this? By freshening up their look. In 1954, Marlboro introduced the Marlboro Man, a stunning new brand mascot that made Marlboro cigarettes look cool. Way cooler than Camel cigarettes. Over the next decade, Marlboro began to take over while Camel continued to struggle with their old grandfather-like image. Camel knew they needed to make a change to their old look before Marlboro took them down, which takes us to 1974. That year, R.J. Reynolds introduced Joe Camel, a much more slick version of Old Joe. The character lacked many typical camel traits and essentially appeared as a muscular human with a camel's head. This new mascot would replace Old Joe and become Camel cigarettes' new marketing campaign in Europe. Through the 70s and 80s, Joe Camel was featured in magazines, billboards, and more. He was always shown in a variety of fun and entertaining situations with bold and bright colors. He would only wear leather jackets or tuxedos and was usually accompanied by women. Joe Camel was killing it in Europe and selling tons of Camel cigarettes, so R.J. Reynolds knew they had to debut it worldwide. So, in the summer of 1988, R.J. Reynolds introduced Joe Camel to the US as a part of their 75th anniversary of Camel cigarettes. Doing so, however, would eventually spark one of the biggest controversies in the history of marketing. It's important to note before moving forward the state that the US was in when it came to cigarette advertising. The 50s and 60s were thriving decades for big tobacco, but the 80s and 90s were the polar opposite. More and more studies started to arise during these decades regarding the hazardous effects cigarettes had on humans. It seemed as if every day a new study would link cigarette use to lung cancer or some other disease. With that being said, the US government began cracking down on cigarette advertising to reduce the amount of people considering picking up smoking, especially young people. So when Joe Camel entered the US advertising world in 1988, although it was technically legal to use him in ads, he was immediately under the spotlight from US officials. However, from 1988 through 1990, Joe Camel hadn't had any issues running ads in the US. The cartoon was featured in magazines, on billboards, and more, just as he was in Europe. But people started to question the ethics of Joe Camel in 1991. Many were hypothesizing that R.J. Reynolds was intentionally trying to target kids and get them to start smoking Camel cigarettes through Joe Camel's childlike look. As a result, many independent studies tested that theory, and what they found was truly horrifying. One study showed that upon surveying 229 preschoolers, nearly 30% of 3-year-olds and more than 90% of 6-year-olds correctly linked Joe Camel to a cigarette. In another study, young adolescents and adults were tested to see if they could correctly link Joe Camel to Camel cigarettes. It was found that more than 90% of the kids, but only 58% of the adults correctly named the brand associated with the cartoon character. The children also rated the Joe Camel advertisements as much more appealing than every other cigarette brand tested against him. And these studies weren't even the worst of it. Another study found that Joe Camel had become nearly as recognizable to 6-year-olds as Mickey Mouse. This shocking discovery becomes more believable when you realize that Joe Camel also had a group of cartoon friends in the exact same fashion that Mickey Mouse did. While Mickey had friends like Minnie, Pluto, and Goofy, Joe Camel was seen accompanied by his friends, Josephine, Eddie, Floyd, Max, and Buster. The idea that R.J. Reynolds was advertising to kids was strengthened even further by a promotion they ran called Camel Cash. Camel Cash was essentially a Camel branded currency that allowed those who purchased Camel cigarettes to earn points, or C-notes. With C-notes, Camel smokers could obtain Joe Camel themed merchandise. The merchandise options included everything from Joe Camel branded t-shirts, baseball caps, watches, inflatable mattresses, and more. The problem was that many of these items and the system of points through which they were earned were especially attractive to young people. These are all items that kids would want, and the only way to get them was to buy Camel cigarettes. With all of this evidence stacking up against them, RJ Reynolds was pressured by the public to end the Joe Camel campaign, but they refused and continued running their ads. However, a bombshell was about to be dropped on them when internal documents of RJ Reynolds' marketing plans from 1974 started to leak to the public. And these documents showed the true colors of the company. Quotes from these plans read such as, "Realistically, if our company is to survive and prosper over the long term, we must get our share of the youth market." Another quote from a top executive read, "In view of the need to reverse the preference for Marlboros among younger smokers, I wonder whether comic strip type copy might get a much higher readership among younger people than any other copy." Another document read, "Evidence is now available to indicate that the 14 to 18-year-old group is an increasing segment of the smoking population. RJ Reynolds must soon establish a successful new brand in this market from our position." And another memo read, "To ensure increased and longer-term growth of the brand must increase its share penetration among people to have a new set of more liberal values which represent tomorrow's business." These documents made it clear as day that attracting underage smokers had long been a top corporate objective for RJ Reynolds and Camel cigarettes. With that being said, a fire was ignited within U.S. government officials and politics. At the time, Representative Henry Waxman compared Joe Camel Acts to the moral equivalent of a national campaign to track Trump. Just for the fun, President Bill Clinton went on record saying, "We must put tobacco ads like Joe Camel out of our children's reach forever." Parents and anti-smoking groups were furious alike. So the FTC finally stepped in and officially charged RJ Reynolds. While under the spotlight, RJ Reynolds denied Joe Camel was intended to be directed at children. The company maintained that Joe Camel's target audience was 29 through 49-year-old males and current Marlboro smokers. A spokesperson from RJ Reynolds said that, "It's not in our interest to have a campaign that encourages underage people to smoke, because that would greatly increase the chance that the government would step in and restrict our ability to communicate with the adult smoking market." However, it seemed that RJ Reynolds was not confident in that statement. The same year the FTC charged them, RJ Reynolds chose to end the Joe Camel campaign worldwide. The company asserted that the decision was purely strategic and not due to social or political pressure. And from that point on, Camel cigarettes shelved Joe Camel, and in return brought back Old Joe, which can still be seen in Camel advertisements to this day.
No, I'm not giving. No, I'm not giving. No, I'm not giving. No, I'm not giving.
Netflix's real-life Squid Game was a disaster, so Netflix had a new reality TV game show based on Squid Game, and whether or not they copied Mr. Beast, one thing's for sure, he did it a lot better than them. Because contestants on the show told IGN that they suffered inhumane conditions, insane working hours, 10 people collapsing on day one of filming, and people claiming it was rigged. My gosh. Although props to Netflix for creating an experience that was so true to the original show. Near-death experiences and all. But now you know how. Netflix's real-life Squid Game was a disaster, so Netflix had a new reality TV game show based on Squid Game, and whether or not they copied Mr. Beast, one thing's for sure, he did it a lot better than them. Because contestants on the show told IGN that they suffered inhumane conditions, insane working hours, 10 people collapsing on day one of filming, and people claiming it was rigged. My gosh. Although props to Netflix for creating an experience that was so true to the original show. Near-death experiences and all. But now you know how. Netflix's real-life Squid Game was a disaster, so Netflix had a new reality TV game show based on Squid Game, and whether or not they copied Mr. Beast, one thing's for sure, he did it a lot better than them. Because contestants on the show told IGN that they suffered inhumane conditions.
Holy shit, that
Our last sword.
It's not backwards, movie. Just you say backwards. You now we will. Movie stop. Movie stop. Shut the fucking idiot. Do you want Holy shit! Do you want Do you want Holy shit! Do you want Holy shit! That's it. I'm gonna show my dick. I'm gonna show my dick. Stop fucking screaming! Show my dick. Fuck you. Fuck you. My dick.
Heads up! Next week's video is already out and waiting to be watched over on our streaming platform, Nebula. Stay tuned for more details. Sending from the giant's castle in the clouds, and another warded dragon has been fired. What does it mean to live happily ever after? Does it literally mean to live happily ever after? Are we really supposed to believe that these characters live perpetually in an idyllic, never-ending bliss for all of eternity? How is that Despite the amount of ooky, spooky, horror-related stuff we've discussed on this show, it will probably come as no surprise to anyone when I say that I also have a bit of a sweet tooth. I mean, in so much as I have any teeth at all. I love pleasant, cute, magic-y stuff. I can't help it. Sure, Poe and Lovecraft and Ito are great.
I'm human.
M&M's lied to us? The Spokes candies aren't actually gone. It was a publicity stunt, and a lot of people actually saw it coming, since it got canceled right before the Super Bowl. But it seems like they took inspiration from the 2020 campaign, where Mr. Peanut died and was reborn at the big game, which was really weird, but hey, it worked. So many people were talking about how they killed off their mascot. Huh, killing off a mascot got them popular?
Maybe it'll get me attention if I...
Nah, I'm kidding, mostly. But now you know how M&M's lied to us? The Spokes candies aren't actually gone. It was a publicity stunt, and a lot of people actually saw it coming, since it got canceled right before the Super Bowl. But it seems like they took inspiration from the 2020 campaign, where Mr. Peanut
Getting freaky on a Friday night yet.